Hey, welcome back to Manic Episodes. Listen, folks, personal time here. I have a fascination with old genre shows, and I love watching them. But not every show is created equal, and I have this sort of terrible habit of trying to finish everything I start to watch just to say I did it. So it's my own fault that I've taken on the largely fruitless task of watching all 8 seasons of Charmed. For those of you who like the show, I'm sorry. For those of you who don't, you're welcome. For the 1998 TV season, Aaron Spelling created Charmed as a way to capitalize on Buffy's rising popularity. The show originally starred Shannon Doherty as Prue Halliwell, Alyssa Milano as Phoebe Halliwell, and Holly Marie Combs as Piper Halliwell, 3 sisters who are brought to their childhood home following the death of their grandmother. They find the Book of Shadows in their attic and discover that they're witches, unlocking powers they never knew they had. Prue can move objects with her mind, Phoebe has visions, and Piper can freeze time. They are the Charmed Ones, 3 sisters foretold to be the most powerful witches in the universe, who must use the power of 3 to stop evil. This means they are constantly under attack by warlocks, which is pretty much the catch-all term for evil magical beings, dudes and ladies alike. Likewise, witch is a blanket term for all the good ones, regardless of gender, though sometimes good witches gone bad are just called evil witches. The terminology is kinda inconsistent. You'd think this is a solid setup for a genre series, but if you're going to follow my videos on this show, you must know one rule and one rule only. If the idea sounds good, Charmed will, without fail, find some way to make it stupid. Here's the thing. The show pretty much sets women back about 50 years. I'd say the same for the guys, but they rarely let any of the men have enough personality for even that. Every week, they're trying to find a guy. They might cast a spell, usually to find a guy. If they aren't looking for men, they're talking about looking for men. If they're not talking about looking for men, they're talking about how they're single and they should have a man. And I guess if I were to watch for the romantic aspect of the series, I still wouldn't have much to cling to. Most of the dudes are gone in a couple of episodes. I keep wondering why I should care. It doesn't help that they keep casting guys that look so similar. I constantly forget if this is a new character or not. It's like our main characters cannot survive on their own. And these are supposed to be the most powerful witches that ever existed. Prue's big story arc involves overcoming her fear of becoming like her mother, forgiving their father for abandoning them, and accepting Phoebe back into the family after becoming estranged from them. She goes from being rather cold and cut off to becoming more approachable and opening up. She spends most of her time wearing knitted sweaters or tank tops and working at Buckland's. She also has an ongoing romantic subplot, making her the character who is focused on most of the time in the first season. Shannon Doherty does a good job with her role, coming off as the sort of mother of the group who's a little bit uptight. Truthfully, the 3 leads are actually fine actresses, but you can't save a stupid story with good acting. Phoebe's arc is about making up for lost time with her family. She used to be a rebellious kid and started a lot of fights before running away, so she's trying to make amends. She's also the one who's the most into witchcraft and gets everyone involved with the Book of Shadows. She was originally played by Lori Rahm in the unaired pilot, who quit before the show made it to series, but Alyssa Milano does fit the character better. I've seen the unaired pilot, and Rahm came off just a little too safe for the role. I didn't buy that she was estranged from her family, or that she could rebel against anything that wasn't already backing away. Phoebe's power is useful, but not terribly proactive, so the writers had her take up kickboxing. Apparently she can master this extremely quickly and become an unstoppable martial arts machine. It's about as believable as anything else on the show, I guess. Piper's character is woefully underused this season. Her romance is the only well-developed plot, but outside of that, her character is usually relegated to subplots involving the restaurant she works at. Name any given episode of the season, and she's stressed about work. Chances are someone at work is annoying her, or she's really busy. She might cook things. One plot is entirely forgotten by the end of the episode. Actually, most of them are, but this one was particularly blatant. She has a new chef who's a douche at work, and all episode it's about her wanting this guy gone, and then by the end of the episode he just quits. Off screen. And not with anything to trigger it either. He was still being a douche who she couldn't fire, he just quit for unspecified reasons. She had a douchey boss who was also French in the pilot, but he just disappeared for some non-French guy, never to be seen again. The loss of their mother is a big deal, and one of the driving forces of the show. She was a witch as well, but she died under mysterious circumstances. They travel back in time for one episode and get to meet her, as well as their grandmother, which was probably one of the stronger episodes of the season. But again, if it sounds like a good idea, Charmed will find a way to make it stupid. Nice stock footage there, folks. Couldn't find anything grainier? It turns out they had powers as kids, but they were locked out to protect them. This just opens up a whole mess of questions about their mother and grandmother's parenting skills, not to mention the Charmed One's memory retaining abilities at a fairly developed stage of their childhood. There are 2 ongoing romantic subplots for the first season, or as ongoing as you can call it, while still having sporadic episodes with new love interests. The first one is Prue's relationship with Andy, a homicide detective who is also a childhood friend of theirs. They have an on-off relationship because Prue can't tell him about her powers. I'm mostly fascinated by his hair gel more than anything. It looks so crunchy. Highlights from Andy include, they went to the video store once and couldn't decide on a movie. At least he has more personality than his partner Daryl. Daryl is a character for 7 seasons, and I shit you not, for the longest time I could not tell you a single thing about him. This season, he mostly walks around with a glass-eyed look, as if to say, yeah, I really miss Baywatch nights. He and Andy are usually there to give the girls access to crime scenes or get the story going, but their involvement makes little to no sense a lot of the time. Where are the rest of the policemen? The only time we see them is in the pilot, where one murder victim apparently means the whole squad and all the press need to gather around the crime scene. And that's one of the rare times Andy and Daryl are actually investigating a homicide. When you're a homicide detective, that's what you specialize in. They have departments and stuff. But they're investigating every crime in the city, no matter how small. Like, for instance, there's a warlock who jumps out of a window and lands on the street, completely unharmed. People give him weird stares, and he walks away. Next thing you know, Andy and Daryl are there, roping off the place and questioning people. It's a broken window, guys. Shouldn't you be investigating the inside of the building anyway? But actually, they shouldn't be investigating this at all, because it's a broken window. That's not homicide, dudes. Anyway, the second ongoing romantic subplot, and the only one that lasts through the show, involves Piper and their handyman Leo. When Leo arrives, the sisters are like, "Girl, he's so fine," and hitting on him and stuff, but Piper's the only one for him. And this goes on for a long time, with apparently a shit ton of things to fix in their pristine-looking house. However, this changes when the show wrote itself into a corner. The girls have signed away their powers and are about to be eaten by a panther warlock, just go with it, with a blank book of shadows and no way out. Then it turns out Leo isn't just a handyman, he's a magical handyman. I repeat, a main character on the show is a magical handyman. Oh, those men folk, am I right? They're so good at fixing stuff! He gives them their powers back because Deus Ex Machinas are this show's specialty. Because they apparently hate writing in magical guy witches that aren't evil, they explain that Leo is a white lighter, which are basically guardian angels for witches. Yeah. He was a normal dude who died and got to come back as a white lighter, specifically assigned to the Halliwells. However, he is forbidden to fall in love with a mortal, which means he and Piper get to have an on-again, off-again relationship, and leaves Piper free to have a new love interest when it's convenient to the plot. It doesn't seem to hurt her much, except when it does. Leo could be this super cool character, but they kind of make him selfless in such a way that it seems a little bit sexist. He can't just have powers, he has to have perfect boyfriend powers. Like, how is this going to save someone's life?
Your tea's cold.
Is he gonna show up with chocolates and a warm pillow and leave the toilet seat down while he's at it? Oh, what a guardian angel. Oh, and the White Lighters have their own versions of warlocks too, called Dark Lighters. Dark Lighters. That's such a stupid name, I feel embarrassed even saying it. They only introduced one this season, and... You guys, you seriously couldn't find someone more intimidating for the part? Someone that could grow a full mustache, maybe? We're supposed to be scared of this guy. He shoots Leo with a poison arrow and successfully kills him. And seriously, Leo? Seriously? That guy? However, Piper brings it back and the villain is successfully defeated. That's the other thing about this show. Makes it easy is pretty much the mantra. What I mean by that is, every episode ends being tied up nicely, and with all of the villains defeated in an insultingly easy way. Look, no mess, they just always melt or explode, like warlocks do, I guess. Keep in mind, warlocks are people too, which means our main characters commit homicide every week. Or sometimes they just end up killing themselves. The big story arc for Season 1 involved Prue's boss at Buckland's, the art gallery she works at. He and his assistant are actually warlocks who want to steal the Charmed One's powers. When the sisters manage to kill the guy, they both disappear into flames. Why does the woman disappear? She was okay. Seriously, are they gonna explain that? They didn't banish her. Oh well, makes it easy! And these two make no sense anyway. Apparently they were running this huge business by taking the identities of two people they killed, but no one noticed that their bosses suddenly looked completely different. No one thought it was weird the assistant lady was suddenly not black. Never occurred to anyone? This isn't some magical thing either, that's how Andy discovers they aren't who they say they are. Things are either insultingly easy, or just never addressed. Take the first season's attempt at tackling the exposure issue. What if their secret got out? Well, this is shoved into a side plot of an episode where a reporter follows Prue around looking for conclusive evidence that witches exist. This evidence involves filming them when Piper freezes time, which just means he has taped the equivalent of a jump cut. I fail to see how this will convince anyone of anything. Fortunately, he just breaks his neck, so I guess they didn't need to take that any further. Or here's one for you. Our main character's haunting past involved their mother's mysterious drowning when they were kids. This means that Prue's biggest fear is dying the same way, so when they face the fear demon Barbas, he uses that against her. How does she solve it? By delivering an ADR line with about the same conviction as ordering a pizza.
I'm not afraid anymore.
It was that easy to defeat him. That's not my editing, that's really the sequence of events there. The episode is running out of time, better wrap it up! I should also mention that this deathly fear of drowning that Prue has isn't mentioned at all until this episode, which is conveniently the episode that helps her get over it. Oh yeah, remember that fear of drowning you had since Mom died? Just thought I'd remind you about it for later in the episode. Kinda like how Phoebe is scared of the boogeyman in the basement and apparently has been since childhood, despite never showing this fear before or after that story needed it. Don't worry, plot convenience is our specialty. Charmed has frequent familiar faces slumming it on the show. Notable guest stars this season include John Cho, Danielle Harris, Billy Drago, Raphael Sbarge, and David Carradine. Oh David, that hair, that's trying too hard. Carradine was in the season finale, which brought about some changes to the show. This includes Piper quitting her job at the restaurant, and after the same thing every episode, that's a welcome change. Unfortunately, she ends up opening a club in the second season and doing the same thing. The plot of the season finale involves Carradine being a time demon, who creates a time loop so this warlock guy can kill all the charmed ones. Which wouldn't be that bad if he weren't the most incompetent guy in the world. He keeps getting banished and Carradine has to keep resetting the day. So, why not just get a different guy who doesn't suck? Why does this guy specifically have to figure out how to do it? And what stake does Carradine have in this? Does he just like being evil? And I guess stopping the time loop banishes him as well, because makes it easy. The biggest thing that happens is Prue's realization that if she doesn't stop the time loop, they'll all die, so she stops it with a spell, knowing that Andy has been killed by an incompetent warlock guy. And this isn't something they can't prevent. Phoebe actually knew about the loop each time the clock reset. So they had a chance to save Andy and stop the loop, but she just decides on leaving him dead. Love at first sight! By this point, he knows about them being magical, but it didn't really change the dynamic of the show much. He found out about Wendigos one time and then just went about business as usual, never to mention it again. He wasn't terribly developed. Prue was naturally traumatized by this, and by that I mean she's checking out the new neighbor by the first episode of next season and gets a new boyfriend by less than 10 episodes in. Bye, Andy! The show is formulaic, to put it lightly. The establishing shots are the same at the beginning of every episode, and they go on just short of forever. For 8 seasons. The monster of the week is repetitive and samey, and it's always stuff about finding guys and work troubles week in and week out. Most of the time they put the two things together and make the monsters the guys they want to date. Hell, one of the episodes is just called Secrets and Guys. They weren't even trying anymore. Again, the series comes off as incredibly sexist to me, bringing out the worst traits of women and belittling men. Women just want to find dates all of the time, and men need to be the perfect boyfriend, usually with frosted hair. They also like to fix stuff. Most other plots involve spells that go predictably wrong, usually because they break the rule that magic can't be used for personal gain. The effects are incredibly tacky and oftentimes laughable.
Warlocks, be gone!
I think the thing that disappoints me about the series is that it could have been more. I wanted it to be good, but the show absolutely refuses to try to do anything to make you think. As a result, it comes off as incredibly bland a lot of the time. Characters are more often than not criminally underdeveloped, plots are dropped unceremoniously, and everything is a bit milquetoast. It might make you chuckle or smile, but it won't make you think. When shows like Buffy were using demons and vampires as metaphors for life, Charmed was finding ways to get their main characters into sexy outfits. This is what I'll leave this episode on. Charmed is not an intelligent or particularly well-made show. However, it is a bit unintentionally hilarious, if you have the patience for it. If you don't take it very seriously, you can laugh at the ridiculous outfits, the time capsule music, the crappy effects, and the incredibly small-minded view the show has regarding women, men, and magic. Logic is not something that plays a part in this series, and it is incredibly fascinating to see that it ran for 8 years and how it progressed. It may be a mindless show, but it's not without its certain merits, and you could probably do worse. But then again, you could do a lot better. Stay tuned for Season 2.
See the air, lines around my eyes. See the air, sarcasm in my smile. You better smile.
Warlocks, be gone!